Any questions on our nuns? All right, any questions on our sadis? And that, again,
I don't know if I have questions because she didn't send out the the tape, so
Right.
wasn't able to watch it.
yeah, she didn't send out the video, so yeah, this is a good chance to just catch up with last week's lesson. So the tzadi just isn't like the chet, the tza and the chaf. The tzadi is something that just needs to be practiced because it's not a normal kind of English speaking sound.
But Sam, Rabbi, I have a question with the
Sure.
Sadik. So the sound is za, like
Yeah.
a z, or
Well-
I need to put the t like z.
Yeah. So think of the English word jets,
Okay,
jets,
jet.
and which in English we're used to putting it at the end of a word. We're not used to putting it in the beginning. At the let's go. So we're used to putting it at the end, but we're not used to putting it at the beginning.
Because
So
but
it's sa,
za, what
sa. So
za?
right. So you think let's sa, and then you get rid of the la part and you're left with that sa,
Means. Okay. It's
which that's why I say it takes practice.
Can we sound out some of the next row? Is it, because there's also the yud there, which I need help with. Is it my yets?
No, we're getting one
Nice.
dot.
Met
means.
meets.
Exactly. Meets.
Oh.
That means trying.
Exactly. Like meets Ryan.
Ryan, okay.
Or we're going to a bunch of track meets. Or we're going to go order in Israel some meats tapuz, which is orange juice.
And
The next one,
hametz,
exactly, chametz.
hametz,
And
hametz.
again, the two dots, it doesn't matter whether the yud was there or not, you're going to say chametz.
And
but
then
the
this
next
one
one
is, yeah.
That's the one that takes the practice.
Okay, what does it sound like?
So what is it? Somebody want to give it a try?
Sit.
Seat.
Whoa. See, but then the yud doesn't have much sound.
Exactly. That's why I said that you can think when the yud's connected to the dot or the two dots, the E or the A, you can think you can ignore it. The yud doesn't have any sound because it's not a yud. It doesn't have a vowel of its own.
Okay, I'm still confused on that. I may need a little extra help with that, but I'm trying.
See,
See.
yeah, and that's where it comes in hard when it's got the it's got the beginning of the word, when it has a vowel. The eights, the
Eights.
erts, those are easy because we're used to ending with the s sound. We're not used to beginning with the s sound.
Eights.
Seat.
Eretz.
Exactly.
Perfect, good. And can we keep going? This is good.
Sure, let's keep going. Ma sot.
Wow. Ma so.
Exactly.
Hamotzi.
Hamotzi.
Yep.
Hamotzi.
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 Right, and you end with the E because the Yud doesn't do anything more, and the Aleph doesn't do anything more because neither of them has a vowel of its own. So just Hamotzi,
Hamotzi.
which is why we were able to do the bread blessing last week.
Mhm.
And then
Limon.
Lemon.
just limon, exactly.
Limon.
And then this one was a practice going back, getting the ch still working. And here you notice the Yud at the end does have a vowel.
So
Leon.
Ch,
Huh?
mil,
Yeah.
yon, right. Ch,
The
Yeah.
mil,
million.
yon.
Young.
Ch, mil, yon.
Million.
That's
What
the
that
shit.
mean?
But it's not ha.
No, there's no Oz. The two dots is just whatever you need as short as possible to get the consonant pronounced. So it's not chamil, but just chmil, just enough to get the ch out there.
And it's and I always get confused with the shva. So it's not ha mi le.
No, it's just ch, not cha, but ch. As
No,
short
no,
as you
but
can.
the
just
mi, the
and
mi,
then-
it's
and
not
then you-
meal, it's
Meal.
mile. Okay, mile. Because it's the shva that's underneath, right?
Right. The shva
I
says,
get that really confused.
right. Remember, the shva just says pronounce the consonant as little as possible to get the consonant pronounced. So at the beginning, you need to go ch to get the consonant pronounced. But here, because you can go all the way up to the consonant from the vowel mil, it did its job. It got the u pronounced, mil.
Meal. Okay, meal.
And then you move on to the next consonant, which here is the yud because it has a vowel, yon.
Young.
Right, and then more practice with those. All right, and then the last word of that body is at the end of
Last.
the last line.
Where are
Ratzah.
you? Where are we?
The last word of the last line of that Sadi group.
Ratzah.
Ratzah.
Ratsa,
Ratza.
Ratsa.
exactly.
Ratsa.
Okay.
All right, any questions on the Dalit? And again, Dalit just have to get used to looking for squared off or rounded. Rounded is Resh.
Dara.
Exactly, just Dara, which is my oldest daughter's middle name.
Ah. And derech. No.
Exactly, Derech. And you
Okay,
just
good.
end with the ch. The Shva says end with the sound of the ch. You don't
Derech.
have to go any further, just Derech.
And then what's the next one?
So
Adama, right?
exactly, Adama,
Adama.
right. And now again, here is just to remind you of the difference between the way the ayin looks and the way that Sadi looks.
Oy.
Remember, the ayin comes around straight, the Sadi doubles back on itself.
So this
Aruma.
Yep, this is actually a coffee chain in Israel.
Roma.
Aruma.
Aroma.
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 It's a modern Israeli coffee chain.
Excellent. Aroma.
Does it mean something like the smell of it, or
It
do they
means
just
like
take
the aroma.
aroma? Yeah, that's what I thought. They took the English word and just spelled it.
Yeah,
in
which they
Hebrew.
do a lot when they don't have a, like limon or banana.
Yeah, it's like the same thing in Spanish.
Yeah. I mean,
And the
the fun
last
thing,
one, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, the fun thing is in Hebrew, there are, in English, there are sounds that have no Hebrew equivalent. So for example, there's no Hebrew word letter for j. But when you drive a four-wheel vehicle in Israel, you have to drive a Jeep. And so they had to create a Hebrew letter that they could say in Hebrew that this was a Jeep.
So what does that look like?
You're wearing jeans. So actually what they do is they take a gimel and put a slash over it, which tells you it goes from a good to a j.
Oh,
Sure. Oh,
And also in Hebrew, there's no way to pronounce ch.
cheese.
Ch, right, cheese. So they take a tsadi and put a slash over it, and the ts becomes a ch.
sure. Ah,
Which way is the slash? How does one know?
Just a little slash up at the top.
To the left or like diagonal? or-
It goes back. Remember, Hebrew reads from right to left, so the slash goes from top right down to bottom left.
Thank you. And the same thing with the J sound.
Same thing with
Probably
the
Gimel.
Gimel with the J, yep.
Excellent.
So yeah, you might find in Israel, instead of saying Gavina, which is the Hebrew word for cheese, they might spell it out as cheese. You know, if they, like Aroma, the coffee shop, if they wanted to create a chain of cheese shops, they wouldn't put necessarily Gavina, they would put cheese, they'd call the place. Or like Chuck E. Cheese.
You know what's totally fascinating as a complete aside, is it okay? I met this terrific family Israelis last night, and in Israel, which I did not know, there's Orthodox people who observe and go to temple, and everybody else. There is no Reform and Conservative. You just don't go. You
Well,
either are Orthodox or there's
yeah.
you don't participate.
That's the modern, that's the view of many modern Israelis. The Reform and Conservative and actually Reconstructionist movement all have actually settings in Israel. So there are there are rabbinical colleges of the other branches, and there are synagogues of the other branches
Oh.
in Israel.
Yeah.
But
It started
most,
about 10 or 15, maybe 10, 12 years ago.
yeah, most modern Israelis don't either are Orthodox or don't go.
Yeah.
In New Hampshire, there's a very vibrant program of shlichim and shlichot, of Israeli emissaries who, after they're done with the army and before they go on to whatever is next, they take a year off and they live in America. And New Hampshire has one of those programs. They live in New Hampshire, travel all over the state, do programs about Israel and other kinds of things in all of the synagogues and the religious schools. When I was up there, one of the shlichot, one of the young women, shared that in her first month in Israel, in New Hampshire, she had gone to more synagogues and more synagogue services than she had her entire life in Israel. So yes, that's typical. All right, so that was it for the last week, was just the Nun, Sadi, and Daled. All right, so
Can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
Maybe I'll wait to the end of, I can stay to the end of the class. My lady is in the hospital now. I knew she was failing.
Right.
But anyway, did you get my question about?
Yeah, so the next group has some West Coast representatives.
Oh,
And therefore a 9:30 class is really, I mean, there are, 10:30 is already asking them to get up at 7:30 in the morning.
oh, okay. I didn't realize that. Sorry.
So, and
Okay.
one of the things I'll be presenting is last year, the group did not meet, we did not meet the Sunday of Christmas or the Sunday of New Year's, because we also have people who aren't Jewish in the group.
Oh, that's
And so this
interesting.
year, I think we will also not meet on those two Sundays, the 26th and the 2nd. However, what I will be offering for those who are interested is on those 2 weeks, because we actually will be finished next week. So your last lesson is the 19th. And so
Bad. I'll miss these. They've been
Well,
awesome, Sam.
So this group then is invited to join the 10:30 group for the more ongoing practice reading, as well as Torah study through really seeing what the Torah says. What I will offer is for the 2 weeks in between the 26th and the 2nd is a review and intro. So I will go back to the very beginning of chapter 1 of Genesis to give some reading practice. And for those, some of the people in the other group actually joined after I did the first chapters of Genesis. So to give you sort of an intro and overview to what we do in the other group and a review for the others in the group who want to, I'll do a 10:30 to 12 on the 26th and the 2nd, because I'm not going anywhere for winter break.
So that's the 26th and the 2nd.
Right.
And that's at 10:30.
That will move back to 10:30, which was the other group's time already was.
Okay.
The other
Okay.
group had adjusted to 10:45 to give me 15 minutes to get out of
Yeah.
this one, change the material over.
You
So
need
the
a
other group
break.
is 10:30 to 12.
So it's
Are
Yeah.
you get enough of a break?
Sure, why not? Not going anywhere.
All right,
All
so
right, so
10:30 Genesis, and if we are really at an elementary level, it's okay to join and struggle through. Like I'm not sure I'm as advanced as other people.
absolutely.
Yeah,
All
but
That's why the 26th and the 2nd, I'll give you sort of an overview to what we do, an intro to it, a review for others in the group who want to join in, but also you'll see how we work it for reading practice. And in the other group, we break out into breakout rooms.
Mhm.
And people just read 2 or 3 people together to practice. And everyone is very comfortable with I think I'll sit and listen today and not read. But the challenge is I send you a body of material, you practice reading that material during the week, and then you read it with others so that you get the immediate self work. In any case,
so
here's our new material for this week.
Okay,
So we had the yud, where sometimes it was a consonant and sometimes it was a vowel. And the clue was always, is there a vowel connected to it? So the vav is the same thing. Sometimes it's a consonant and sometimes it's a vowel. And the clue is this first one, you'll notice it doesn't have a dot above and it doesn't have a dot below in the middle. So it's not one of the vowels that you know. That was clue number 1. And then clue number 2, it has a vowel of its own, which is the O.
vo.
vo.
Exactly, so it's vo. And then here, again, it has a vowel,
Va.
exactly. And then here, again, the shva, this is shva practice. The shva says just do enough to get the consonant pronounced. The aleph says pronounce only the vowel. So what you have is you have a vav with a slight break, a slight pause, and then a real vowel. So it's the ata.
Say it
But
again.
the dot in the center of the,
So there are dots in the centers of letters that don't mean anything to you because they don't change the pronunciation.
But
And
it's confusing.
almost all of the consonants will get a dot at some time, but only a few of them change the pronunciation. So not va, but the-a. Slight pause, the-a.
So, Rabbi, in this case, when we have the Shema, the show, I don't know, in the
Shema, yeah.
beginning, the Shema. So we are going to separate the 2 syllables and we will say a,
Exactly,
ta.
exactly, the-ata. And the in front of a word means and. So
Ta.
the-ata means and you, masculine singular.
That is
Mm.
like when we say beata, beat olam. It's
Exactly.
Beata. So the va in the beginning of the word, we are saying like beata, beat olam. It's like, no, it's because we have a vav and a e and a e. No, it's
Right.
beata, beat
Right.
olam.
A lot of people, when they're singing or reading a little bit less correctly, will say V or something like that, or Va, but it's really technically, it's just the, as short as possible. The-ata. And then this one was done to show you the difference between the size of the yud, the size of the vav, and the size of the final nun.
So it's
Notice above the line, at the line, below the line.
Yavan.
Exactly, it's Yavan,
Yeah,
Van.
which is actually the old Hebrew word for Greece.
Oh,
And the modern Hebrew word, Yavan, is Greece, the country or the collection of islands. But you'll notice it actually is the Hebrew way of spelling out Ionia.
Oh,
And that's because the first Greeks that the Middle Easterns came in contact with were not actually Greeks, but they were from Ionia. So that the Ionians became the symbolic representation of all of the Greek islands.
Oh,
So Yavan. And then here, now remember I said the yud can be treated as silent if it's not part of the vowel and doesn't have its own vowel. And that's sometimes an easier way of thinking of it with the E and the A is if it doesn't have a vowel, just ignore it. And
can I
here,
try that? Can I try reading it since I haven't been here in a while?
sure,
Is it Olamav?
exactly. That's exactly what it is.
Okay,
Very good. Yes. Olamav.
thank
And
you.
the yud doesn't have a vowel, so you get to ignore it and just go up to the vav at the end. Now we get a little bit more tricky in the second line, because here the vav is clearly a vowel, a consonant rather. So this word is
Mitzvah.
exactly, which means commandment.
Va.
Doesn't mean good deed. So mitzvah, again, the tzadi ends the vowel, so you don't have to pronounce the shva at all. It did its job of mitzvah. Mitzvah.
Mitzvah.
But now you have the same thing, except you notice that the vav has a vowel, the dot above,
Yeah.
but the
Mitzvot.
vav also is preceded by a vowel, so it has to be a consonant.
Mitzvot?
Yes.
Exactly. So it has to be both the consonant and the vowel.
Vote.
And
Mitzvah.
mitzvot is simply the plural of mitzvah.
Mitzvah. Mitzvah.
Mitzvah, mitzvot. And then here, that same kind of ending that you had up here. So this word is
Ta.
Mitz. Mitzvotayim.
okay. Don't you ignore the yud.
Ah. Mitzvotam. Mitzvotam.
Tav. Again, final nun goes below the line. The vav ends at the line. So mitzvotav.
I'm having a hard time with why they dropped the yud in there because then it makes me feel like it should be a y sound somehow in there.
It should be, except it doesn't have a vowel, so it can't be. And remembering that the Hebrew was originally written without any vowels at all, the yud was there simply as a symbol that the root word was plural.
Oh,
Because remember, these symbols that we call letters are simply signs or symbols or reminders for the orator as to what they were supposed to be saying. And in fact, the Hebrew word for letter is ot, which is also a word for a sign or a symbol. In fact, we talk about Shabbat as ot he. It is a symbol. So these are just symbols that indicate pronunciation and grammar and syntax and all sorts of other things.
I mean, it's interesting. She has problems with the yud. I have problems with the shva.
Exactly.
It's like it's mitzvotav. Mitzvotav.
Exactly. Just mitzvotav. Exactly.
So,
Now notice this one looks exactly like this one in the letters, but this one is not pronounced the same as this one. This one was mitzvah, but this one is
Mitzvot.
mitzvot.
no ma.
Matzvot.
Mitzvot.
No,
No,
matzvot.
it doesn't need to be a consonant because it already has a consonant, so it's only a vowel.
So it's
Matzot.
Matzot.
Exactly. The plural of matzah is
Matzot.
matzot.
Oh, that's going to be tough when it's the O sound or when it's the V.
Right. So again, you're looking at, is there a vowel before it? Is there a vowel connected to it? Here, the answer is There's no vowel before it, so it must be the vowel.
Okay.
Here, there is a vowel before it, so it must be the consonant. And if it's a consonant, it must have a vowel.
Can you say that again, though? It's
So-
mats.
Matzot,
Matzot.
as opposed to mitzvot.
Vote.
Mitzvot.
Mitz, vowel, next thing you need is consonant. Consonant, next thing you need is vowel. Here, consonant, next thing you need is vowel, and that's all she wrote. Mitzvot,
Oh, okay.
matzot. But remember, in the Torah, these look exactly the same, which led to an interesting Devar, Midrash, sermon that a rabbi over 1,000 years ago wrote. In the Torah, there's a place about your unleavened bread where it says, do not tarry with your unleavened bread and let it rise, but do it quickly. And they said, do not read matzot, your unleavened bread, but rather mitzvot, commandments. And so they now translate it as, do not tarry with your commandments, lest they spoil, because that's what rising is actually spoiling. Leavening is spoiling, lest they spoil, do it quickly.
Okay.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
So they use that as a sermon why you should rush to do a mitzvah whenever you have the opportunity.
Wow.
But again, mitzvot, matzot. Mitz,
Matzot.
Mitzvot.
consonant, vowel, consonant, vowel, consonant, vowel,
Meets.
consonant,
Consonant.
vowel, consonant, vowel.
Oat. So we just have to think a lot.
Yeah, so again, you're always looking for,
Consonant.
right for the yud, you're looking for,
Vowel.
is it a consonant, is it a
Consonant.
vowel? Now, the next one, the last line, first word,
Sivat.
just siva, that's easy.
Sivat.
Or
Sivanu?
sivanu. Siva, again, we're dealing with commandments. Mitzvah is a commandment. Mitzvot are commandments. Mitzvotav are his commandments. The av ending tells you, and commandments, yud, tells you it's plural. Siva is the verb commanded. Sivanu
Vanu.
commanded us, the new ending, like
Mm.
Eloheinu.
Manu.
And then now gets tricky. Notice the vav here has a dot in the middle,
Ooh, wow.
but it can't be a vowel because it has a vowel before it, so it must be a consonant.
Lexivanu.
Exactly, vitsi vanu, and that's why I'm starting to stick dots inside of random letters.
Wait,
It's
can
not
you do
actually
that
random.
again? Because I would have thought that would be the O sound.
The oo sound, dot in the
Yeah,
middle.
O sound.
So
So
it can't be the oo because the tzadi already has a vowel.
Lex.
It's simply another one of those letters. And by the way, I'm not sticking the dots in randomly. They are actually in many letters for many different reasons. But fortunately for you, they don't change the pronunciation.
I see. So it's interesting when before we read and assume that there's a U or an O or whatever, we actually have to, if you're beginners like me, you have to look to see if there's a vowel.
Exactly.
So I see
So
what you're
consonant,
saying.
vowel, consonant, vowel. Next thing you need is consonant. Next thing you need is vowel, consonant, vowel.
Vowel.
So
So it's-
here the dot is irrelevant, but here the dot must be the oo of the vowel because it has a consonant before it.
it's gonna be
Okay.
really hard to differentiate
Yeah.
the O from the
Yes. So
the
that is-
with just a random dot.
Yeah,
Yeah, but for me, that I'm going to see again the video, your explanation, because for me, it would be easy because it's the same in Spanish.
I was
Yeah.
The
thinking the same
syllabus.
thing. I speak Spanish too, and I was thinking the same thing.
What
That
what
you
is
could-
similar in Spanish?
because we can, I don't know, but when I saw Bexivanu, as because in Spanish, you can separate the words. So vocal, consonant, consonant, vocal, it's like a order.
Yes.
Bexivanu, you have a vocal and vowel, vocal, a
Mhm.
consonant, vowel, consonant, vowel.
Yeah, Spanish is great because what you see is what you get.
Exactly.
You
That
see
is
a
why
letter, you
it's,
pronounce. It's not like French where half the word disappears up your nose, or English
yeah,
where OUGH can be pronounced ow, ow, ooh, off,
exactly.
up.
Yeah, you know, in Spanish, you just see, you say,
Yeah.
but in English, you see and you can guess.
or Danish, which doesn't sound anything like it looks.
So, but Rabbi, what I'm going to do, because, you know, I do the minyan every day and I'm praying every day and I'm listening the words. So, and now that for me, I see it's amazing because I can see Bexivanu because I know the word. So now I can see that maybe I need to read what I am saying repeatedly, you know.
Exactly. That's what I'm encouraging is stop saying it from memory and start, even though the reading will get a little bit slower, it makes it a lot easier to read something new when you're in that system.
But it's the same thing, because the next one I was looking the same way. It's ba mitzvatov.
No,
Then
Mitz-
it's
vo,
tav.
Bota.
right.
Tav.
Mitzvo tav.
But it's be.
Right. Just
Okay,
as short
that's the shep again.
as
Okay,
short as you can. Be mitzvo tav.
Ba,
tav.
meets, vo,
Mhm.
ta.
Right. And again, you can break words down. Mitzvot, are commandments. The av at the end makes it his commandments. And the b at the beginning makes it in.
And the
So,
yud makes it plural.
right. And the yud says, so in his commandments.
So
Say
for
it
me,
again,
it's the same
be.
thing.
You said
It's-
say it again, the beginning, be.
And one of the things the Shva does is the Shva is never an accented syllable. So you want to get off of it as quickly as you can, get over to the accent, which is at the end of the word. So b'mitzvo tav.
It's be. Bemit is be and be.
Right, get off of it because it's b'mitz. It's not be, because then you'd be working with an accent.
But it's ba meets, right?
Right, b'mitzvo tav, exactly.
Meets,
Can you,
vo, tav.
Yes,
could you, okay, so in the ba is in, mitzvot, the
Commandments.
vav at the end is plural, right?
No,
Is that
well,
what
the
you're
yud at
saying?
the end tells you it was a plural word at the root.
Oh, okay.
Vav at the end tells you that it's third person, singular, masculine, possessive.
Yikes.
So it's
You
his
need to check
commandments?
grammar.
Exactly, in his commandments,
In his commandments.
which is a problem for modern people translating because they don't like God as a him.
Right.
Oh,
So they'll usually translate it as in the commandments or something like that. Just because they try to avoid the gendered pronouns. But Hebrew can't avoid the gendered pronouns because Hebrew is gendered. Okay, and then the kuf is just a k sound.
Then it's daka.
Exactly.
It's so it's kere, and then that's the noon. Kere noon.
No, it's not a nun. The nun
Oh,
would
that's
be
a half. The half at the end.
Hera.
Erech,
right,
yeah.
just erech.
Erech, okay.
You end with that sound, as opposed to this one, which has the same ending sound, but it's written differently,
Korech.
Ra.
except that
No.
It's nay.
What?
it's not an eh, it's an
Hurrah.
Korah.
orach,
Korach.
Hurrah.
right, which was a bad guy in the Torah.
Korach. Correct.
Radak,
Right, radak.
and that's tough because the Dalet
Bara.
and the Resh are pretty tough.
Exactly. This is the rounded and the squared off.
Darach.
It's Barak.
Right, barak.
Barack Obama.
Well, which is lightning.
Barak.
And then the next one,
Let's see. So it's
Comer.
exactly, komer. And then the next one, again, you've got the sadi with the shva, so it's just short.
Sa-
Daka.
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 Sada, sadaka.
Right, tzedakah,
Tzedakah.
Tzedakah. Tzedakah.
which actually
then
means
tzedakah?
just or righteous things. It doesn't actually mean charity.
Oh, wow.
It's doing the
So-
right thing, doing the just thing is tzedakah.
But that's like
Okay.
the Sadak, the roots of the righteous people. Isn't it the same root?
Yes, exactly.
Because I remember when I said, oh, they say tzedakah, but it's the Saudis and it's like the righteous. I wonder why they say that. It's just
Yeah.
Americans, we just do it that way.
Exactly. I mean, and you want to remember, you want to make sure you say tzedakah, get the tz in there, so people don't think
Right.
you're singing, talking about some singer named Neil.
Daka.
I missed, hopefully
Okay.
she'll send last week's taping, because the Saudi, I missed that, so it's.
Yeah. Well, it'll now be in this week's taping as well.
So, Rabbi, I have a question with the last
Sure.
because so there is no pronunciation in the end because it's sedaka or sedaka.
Okay, yeah, don't worry about the accent right now,
Okay.
because right now we're still just going tzedakah. We're just getting, but once you're reading it quickly, it's tzedakah. The accent generally in Hebrew, in Sephardic, is on the last syllable, unless you have an kind of word, in which case it'll shift. So, but as you're reading for fluency, once you get from syllables to words and from words to phrases, once you get from words to phrases, we'll then be able to put accents in more easily.
Mhm. Okay.
And the root of tzedakah is tzedek.
Sedek.
So tzedakah is righteousness or justice in one form. Tzedek is righteousness or justice in a different form of the word. And actually, in the Tanakh, it says tzedek, tzedek, tirdof.
So it's justice, you will do, all right.
You will pursue.
Pursue, all right.
Rodef is to pursue.
Say it again, Rhoda.
Rodef, the root,
Rodef.
ridifa. Ridifa is the word for pursuing.
No. Can you say again the last one?
So
Yeah.
tir, dof. Again, resh,
Urdo,
dalad.
Is
Tir,
Here.
dof.
Here. Say it again.
Tir, dof. That's the final fe.
Here.
Here. Dof.
Exactly, tir, dof. Tzedek, tir, dof.
Tier.
What does beer dof mean?
Pursue.
Pursue.
So there's a synagogue in Arizona, near Scottsdale, Arizona, actually in Paradise Valley, called Rodef Sholom.
Oh,
Actually,
that's
no, it's in
pursue
Squirrel
peace.
Hill. Rodef means pursuers of peace.
Peace. Nice.
And in Psalm 23, we talk about things, the bad stuff, tirdafuni, will not pursue me. All right, now the shin, the dots on the right.
And that means shh.
That's a shh sound. And here now the mem needs a vowel. The only place you can find the vowel is the dot up above.
Sure.
And so this is what I call a double duty dot. Because it's both
Sorry,
the
Rabbi.
vowel.
On the one before, the last letter, which one is that? I was looking for that.
The final fe,
This one, I'm right, it's where it said, yeah, it's off. What is that? Is it, I forget what that last
That's the
letter.
final fay. We have the fay and the
Oh,
pay
okay.
and the final fay. And
PH
the
sound. F.
little whale or the little nose hanging down or something was the indicator that you were dealing with a fay.
I can't find it, maybe, like I printed.
Um, Yeah, I think it was back in lesson 4, maybe.
The one that probably I lost my computer and she didn't send it out. Okay, that makes
It's
sense.
pages,
Probably 8, 9, something like that.
Thank you.
7, 8.
it's page 7 and
It's 8.
Yeah,
7 and 8.
page 7 and 8.
Thank you.
All right, so now we have the mem needs a dot, so it's O. And then the
Oh.
dot tells you that it's a shin. So this becomes
Moshe.
Moshe,
Moshe.
Moshe,
right? Moses's name,
Moshe,
Moshe.
Moshe.
And here, this dot tells you it's a shin, and this dot becomes the vowel for the shin.
Oh, so it's show, show, no, show, ne.
Exactly, shoneh. And the next one is
Shana.
Can I ask you something, Rabbi? How will we know later with the shin when it's the letter that it comes before? How will we distinguish that?
again, like with the vav, like with the yud, you're looking for where is the vowel. So the dot on the right is a consonant indicator for shin.
Okay,
The dot on the left will become, and sometimes you're going to get the double duty dot coming that way. But here, the mem needs a vowel. So again, you're going consonant, vowel, consonant. Here you're going consonant, vowel, and you know that the O vowel can't come before the letter, so it has to come after the letter. So the consonant indicator followed by the vowel indicator.
Shoneh.
Shoneh.
Ne.
And you'll notice shoneh and shana have the same
Shana.
root.
Anna.
Yeah.
Shana.
So
Shana.
the root means turn around or to return to or repeat, to go around and around. That's why a year is called a shana.
Shana, Rosh Hashanah, Shana Tov, okay.
Right. Shana is a year because it keeps returning. It keeps turning around,
Wow. Thank you.
coming back.
Wow.
Shoneh is turns away, turns around.
Shana.
And
So
then,
there's a turning business to Shana, or a returning, but not like a returning, going here and going back again, but going around in circles.
and then Shom.
Nope.
Sham.
Tam.
Exactly. Sham
Sham.
means there.
Sham.
That's what the shin on the dreidel was the there. Nes gadol haya sham. A great miracle was there. As opposed to the Israeli dreidels that have a pay there because it's Nes gadol haya po. A great miracle was here.
She.
And then, yep, the.
Shina.
V.
It's
Yeah,
Shina.
as short as you can.
Veshina.
But you can go all the way up to the next letter.
Veshinanta.
And then you finish.
Veshinantam.
Exactly. Vishinan tam.
Tam.
Ve. She. Nan. Tam.
Exactly.
Again, that confuses me. I had all the way through Veshina, but then that confused
Right.
me.
Again, remember
And
when
then I
you
knew it was
stop.
Tom, but I didn't know how to do that one in the middle.
Yeah. So Vishinan, you can go all the way up to the consonant and then stop and go on.
Shinan.
Okay.
Vishinan tam. And you run into this word in the ahavta, which is usually translated as you shall teach them diligently.
Veshinan.
So the and Shinanta, you will teach. Ending, them. Third person, masculine, plural, possessive. But shana, as we saw, doesn't actually mean teach. It's more a matter of repeating, going over and over it. So shana is a Hebrew word for teaching that indicates that you just keep going over the material. You repeat it. Go around and around with it. And actually, there are 3 basic words in Hebrew for education. One is Torah, or from which we get the Hebrew word morah or moreh, which is a teacher. But the root is actually yara, which is an archery term for to hit the target, to hit the mark, to aim for the bullseye. So Torah is teaching by teaching the right way to look at it, the right direction. Mishnah is
Where are you now?
giving you the different words for teaching.
Okay.
Mishnah, which comes from this shana, is to teach by repeating repetitively.
So Mishnah, it's like, well, that's why how with the Mishnah, they keep repeating and arguing with it, when we're
Right. It's the oral Torah, but it was the teaching by going over and over it. And then Lomed, Talmud, a Talmid, a Melamed, which is learning and teaching, is teaching by interaction.
Oh, so Lomed, say it again.
Lomed, or a Talmid, is a student, or a Melamed is a teacher. The root is, and the Talmud is teaching in an interactive style.
And that's why we have Haveruta. Okay.
Right.
That's interesting.
So
Thank
that
you.
we have Torah teaching, we have Mishnah teaching, and we have Talmud teaching. Anyway, so that's all of that, but all of that Shana root, you can see comes out in different ways depending on how it's vocalized. Next root that is very common is the second line, which is,
Kodesh.
Koresh.
okay, but squared, not rounded.
Kodesh.
Right, Kodesh,
Kodesh.
as opposed to the next one, which is,
Now, what does that little dot mean?
that little dot is your E,
Kiddush.
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 And the next one, which is
Kaddish.
exactly Kaddish. And the next one, again, the Shvat says just combine, go consonant, vowel, consonant. So
Is
Ki-
Kiddash. Kiddash
Ta.
ta.
exactly,
Kiddash ta.
Kiddash ta,
Kiddush ta.
exactly. And we're going to leave the last one. So you notice they all have the same root.
Well, the last one is what? Kov?
Well, it's a different word. Last one was just more practicing. But the
Okay.
root is the Kiddush. The Kiddush root, those 3 letters, indicate some aspect of holiness,
Ah.
sanctifying.
When we lift our feet, Kodesh, Kodesh, Kodesh. All right.
All right, so, but the root actually means to set apart, to make special or distinct.
Got
So
it.
something that's holy is something that's been made separate or distinct. So we translate it as sanctify or holy, but Kodesh is holy. Kiddush is making a holy thing, and we say in English, Kiddush. So this is sanctifying. Kaddish is sanctification in Aramaic, and we call it the Kaddish.
Kaddish.
So when you're saying the Kaddish, you're actually saying a sanctifying thing.
Kaddish.
Kiddush ta is sanctified us, sanctified you rather. The ta ending is second person singular masculine, possessive. Kiddush, sanctified, ta, you.
But Kiddush is just like, it's come to mean like, come hang out and have a snack. So it doesn't
Well,
feel like it's a holy call.
Right,
to-
Kiddush actually is sanctification time.
Wow.
But
Yes,
it's,
it's not-
it is sanctification. Before we have Kiddush, we say the blessing.
Right,
And
but it's not a
it's-
come and hang out time.
Right, but if you hang out, it's a sense of, you do the blessing and it's a sense of community coming together to sanctify and to
Right.
be together. So I don't
And-
see it as just a hanging out.
Right, and well, another word that usually people think means hanging out is oneg.
Yes. And what does it mean?
And oneg actually means to make happy.
Mm.
Oneg Shabbat is a happiness of Shabbat. All right, and then Kof is the letter,
Oh,
the name of
Okay.
the letter.
Okay.
Oh,
And remembering that all of the Hebrew letters were originally pictograms, and so therefore all of the names of the letters are words, are names of something that they stood for. Kof is actually a monkey.
oh,
Oh,
So the letter was originally a monkey hanging on a tree.
well, that's fun.
So Kof is a monkey. And then you have the first line is your standard 6-word entrance into a blessing.
where are you? Wiggle your mouse.
The third line of the
Thank you.
So this is the standard 6-word entrance into a blessing. And then the last line is now a new form of blessing. Up until this time, you've had 6-word entrance to a blessing, followed by what it is that we're blessing.
Ashar.
Borei Priya Eitz, Amotzi Lechem, whatever it was.
share.
Now we have, and those are called short blessings because the blessing only is entered into by these 6 words. And you can have paragraph long short blessings. So for example, in the morning service, the blessing over light is just a short blessing because it's a statement of recognition of God's presence in light with nothing more. A long blessing is a blessing prior to doing a mitzvah, prior to doing something that is commanded upon us. So we're not commanded to eat grape, but if we eat grape, we have to bless it. We're not commanded to eat any kind of food, but if we do, we have to bless them. But there are certain things that we're commanded to do, and those are asher,
Share.
which means that or which, and then the next word,
Anna.
Shan.
Kideshanu.
Cool.
right, kid, sha, nu,
Kid.
and the kidash is commanded. The new ending is the first person plural person plural. Us, commanded us,
Kid Chanu.
kichanu, and then,
Bemitz.
Watav.
right, be, mitz,
From meats.
Bo.
bo, tav,
Um,
which was in his commandments,
Fatav. Bemitz Fatav.
the mitzvot tav,
Tav is what?
then
Banu.
Etzi.
Mexivano.
the si va nu,
Betsy
is-
Anu.
and commanded us, so has sanctified us in his commandments and commanded us al,
Al
which means on. or
means what?
consider- On. So we've been commanded about something. We've been commanded on.
On. Al.
So for example, when you stand under a temporary booth and you wave a bunch of leaves and a citron, you say, al netilat lulav, on the waving of the lulav.
Say it again.
Al is on. So
Ah.
long blessing is a blessing of a commandment. And then it concludes with what it was that we were commanded about.
But I'm curious, I remember learning something about owl, and it's like the word Daniel, if something meant something owl.
Okay, no, that's ale, that's with an aleph.
El, okay, I'm sorry, thank you.
The aleph lamed is God's name, or El means two. So
Okay.
El which we saw before, L, when we learned the ayin, you learned El al.
Rabbi Sam, before we lose you, and where we're gonna lose you to your next group, can we do the S sound?
Yes, so we'll do this, review this next week. So the dot on the left is sin, the dot on the right is shin.
Shin.
So asa.
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 And here the dot is both so da, the third word of the second line. So da,
So.
Soda.
Ah.
exactly, so da. Then the last two things in this week's are, you already knew the chaf. Now when you put a dot in it, it becomes a kaf.
Ka.
So you have that already with the pay and the fay. Now you get the only other two you have to deal with, which is the kaf and the chaf, and the vet and the bet.
Bet.
So there are only three letters that change their sound based on whether there's a dot in them or not. They are the bet vet, kaf chaf, and pay fay that you've had before.
And would you kindly sound a little bit of the vet, because how does it differ from the other V?
It doesn't, as far as pronunciation.
Okay.
It's still just bevet.
V-
Bevet.
Ve- T.
Right, and here you get a lot of practice. Ko, cha, vim.
Ko, cha,
Beam.
beam. Oh, yeah.
Right. So this will be practicing.
No.
And now
Avi.
here, it takes 3 lines to do a long blessing. 6-word entrance,
Would you wiggle your mouse? I can't see where you are.
Yeah. third line of
Thank
the
you.
bottom, 6-word entrance into a blessing. Then long blessing, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu. So that sanctified us in his commandments and commanded us, in this case, lahadlik, to kindle or to light, to cause to flame up. Ner shel Shabbat, a candle of Shabbat. Ner shel Chanukah, a candle of Chanukah. Ner shel Yom HaKippurim, a candle of Day of the Atonements.
Say the last one again, Haki.
Kippurim,
Purim. Haki Purim.
right, with a pay review, pay reminder. So yes, bet, vet, kaf, chaf, and pay, fay are the only ones where you have to pay attention to the dot.
Okay.
All right.